Hey everyone, my name is Hannah McAdams, and I am doing this for my daughter because we are in logic, and I am learning right beside her. I'm a former classroom teacher and I do write curriculum, but this is just for my daughter because we were really struggling to learn when to or how to determine whether a syllogism is valid. So I'm going to kind of go over a couple concepts first, and this is probably going to be in two parts because it's kind of a long concept. But in order to determine whether a syllogism is valid, first you need to know and understand a couple concepts. You need to understand the square of opposition, you need to understand syllogisms and distribution, and then rules of validity. So I'm going to go over the first three in this video just as a reminder so that you are ready for when to know whether a syllogism is valid. Okay? All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the square of opposition. Okay, so first let's talk about S and P. S stands for subject and P stands for predicate. Okay, so in this sentence, this statement, all cats are animals. Cats are the subject, the S, and animals are the predicate. Okay, so that's the S and the P. Okay, all right, so all cats are animals, or we could say no cats are animals, or we could say some cats are animals, or some cats are not animals. Okay, so the subject in all of these are cats, all right, because they come first in the sentence. The thing that comes last is the predicates. Those are animals, okay? So the S and P are there. All right, now let's talk about affirmative and negative. I want to actually start with the negative because it's easier to determine whether a sentence is negative because they have a negative word. So the negative words are no or not. If you have negative words, then the whole statement is negative. Okay, so if there's a no cats or animals, or it could be anything, it doesn't have to be cats. It could be no humans are aliens. Okay, it doesn't matter. But we just need that presence of the word no. Or some cats are not animals, or some humans are not aliens. Whatever you want to put in those subjects and predicates doesn't matter. As long as there is a no or a not, then those sentences are what we call negative sentences. Okay, so affirmative means positive. It's just another word for positive. And so the other two sentences, these two are negative. No cats are animals, no cats are, or some cats are not animals. The affirmative ones are the other ones over on this side. All cats are animals, some cats are animals. Okay, so I put a positive sign over on the left and a negative sign over on the right of the square of opposition. Okay, and then we have letters A, E, I, and O. Okay, I don't know who made these up, but if you notice, A, E, I, and O are in alphabetical order. It's the vowels except for U. Okay, so A, E, I, O, and U, but we're just not using U because there's only 4 options, right? And the way that we put them on is if you have an all sentence, if the sentence starts with all, it's an A. Okay, if the sentence starts with no, it is an E. Okay, if the sentence starts with some, it's an I, and if it starts with some are not, then it is O. So A, E, I, and O. This you have to memorize. If you don't, or you have to have a chart in front of you. Either memorize it or make a chart, but you do need to know these letters. Okay, that's just how we refer to the different statements. Okay, now the way that I remember this is A goes here. I'm sorry that the O is blinking. E goes here. I is over here. And O is over there. I'm sorry. I needed to fix that O that's blinking. I hope it doesn't do this the whole time. Okay, no, it's not going to. All right. So A, E, I, and O. So another way to remember is A an E. If you remember in the vowels, A, E, I, and O go from the left to the right, top to bottom. So left, right, top, bottom. That's what I was trying to show you, but I had the animation wrong. Sorry about that. Okay, now, so we've talked about the square of opposition. Now we're talking about syllogisms. Okay, so a syllogism is 3 statements, okay, that use A, E, I, or O, okay, and there are 2 premises and 1 conclusion. So let's talk about premises. Okay, this is called the major premise. Okay, and it can be an A statement, it can be an E statement, it can be an I statement, it can be an O statement. It can be true or it can be false. Okay, in this sentence, all cats are mammals. Well, that's true, right? But it doesn't matter. It could say all cats are aliens. Well, that's not true, but it's still an A statement. It's okay for it to be false. Okay, so this is called the major premise. All right, and I will talk about why it's called the major premise in a minute when we get to the major, minor, and middle terms. But one way you can remember is the major premise is first, and I always think of major being the most important. So it's first. Okay, and then the minor premise is the next one. Some animals are not cats. Again, that could be an A statement, an E statement, an I statement, or an O statement. In this case, it's some are not, which is O. Some are not. Okay, some animals are not cats, so that's called the minor premise. And again, I will talk about why that's called the minor premise in just a minute when we get to the major, minor, and middle terms. Okay, and then so these are the premises, the major premise and the minor premise. Okay, if here we have the word all, so that means that it is an A statement. Okay, and it's positive because it's the A and the I statements are positive. Remember, it doesn't have any negative words like no or not, so it's a positive statement. Okay, and then this one, the minor premise, has some are not. So that is an O statement, okay? And we know that it is negative because E and O are negative, and because of that word not, we know that it's a negative statement, okay? All right, let's talk about the conclusion. So we have 2 premises, the major premise and the minor premise, and then we have a conclusion. So all syllogisms have 3 sentences. Okay, there are 3 statements. They have to be written in A, E, I, or O form. Okay, but our conclusion is the last one. Okay, this is the conclusion. Okay, and we can decide what kind of conclusion this is. Some animals are not mammals. So we have some and not. That not term tells us that it's a negative statement, but we also know that it is an O because we have some are not. Okay. So it's an O statement. All right, now let's talk about the major, minor, and middle terms. This is a little confusing, and part of the reason it's confusing is, did you notice that, look at all cats are mammals, that's the major premise? Okay, so we've got a major premise and we have a major term. We have a minor premise and we have a minor term, and then we also have a middle term. So it's a little confusing because we're using these words kind of in 2 different ways. But let's go through this. So the way that you find the major premise, okay, remember the terms are S and P. Okay, so cats and animals here are the S terms, okay? And the P terms are at the end of the sentence, mammals, cats, mammals, okay? And I could switch these words, so it could say, instead of it saying all cats are mammals, I could switch it so it could say all mammals are cats. It may not be true, but it's allowed when we are creating these syllogisms. Okay, but for this format, let's stick with this. All cats are mammals. Some animals are not cats. Some animals are not mammals. So our P sentence or words are mammals, cats, and mammals. Okay. So let's talk about the major term. The way that you find the major term, if you watch the videos that I've been watching, he says, go to the conclusion, there's the conclusion. Some animals are not mammals. Go to the end. Well, what's the end of that sentence? Some animals are not, right, mammals. That's the major term. Okay, so that's how we find the major term, mammals. Okay, now the major term is also found in the major premise. That's why we call it the major premise, because it includes the major term. It also has another term. It has the middle term as well, but it includes the major term. So which sentence has mammals in it besides the conclusion? Which premise? Right, the top one, the major premise, also has mammals. Now, I want to point out, this is where I got confused when I was learning this. It doesn't matter what order it's in. It could say all mammals are cats. It's still a major premise. The major term is still mammals because of the conclusion, where it is in the conclusion. I got a little confused about that, but anyway, the point is that it's okay for mammals to be either the S or P, the subject or the predicate, in that major term or major premise, as long as it's there. Okay, so we have in the conclusion mammals, and then in the major premise we find the word mammals. Okay, all right, so let's talk about the minor term. All right, the minor term is the subject of the conclusion. So not mammals, but what's the subject of this conclusion? So here's the conclusion: some animals are not mammals. Right, so animals is the minor term. Okay, so the minor term is also found in the minor premise. That's why it's called the minor premise, because it contains the minor term. Okay, so the minor term is also found in the minor premise. Here is the minor premise, and it is the subject of the minor premise. Okay, so animals and animals. Got it? Great. Okay. The other term is the middle term. Okay. And the middle term is the term not found in the conclusion. So we have animals and mammals in the conclusion. Some animals are not mammals. So what's the other thing we're talking about besides animals and mammals in the major premise and the minor premise? Right. So it's not animals and mammals. So it must be cats. Okay. Cats. All right. Now I want to show you this. The major premise and the minor premise both have the middle term. That's important. And for some reason, it took me a long time to learn that. But both the major term or premise and the minor premise have the middle term, contain the middle term, and it is not in the conclusion. Okay? All right. So now we're going to do distribution. Distribution, I think, is a little tricky to understand, and that's okay. If you don't understand what it means, it really doesn't matter that much. You just have to memorize something or make a table and have it in front of you. Okay, but I'm going to explain the why behind it as much as I can, and then I'll show you an easy way to remember. Okay, so distribution is a term, S or P, is distributed if we are talking about every single one of those terms in the entire universe. Okay, so here we have all cats are animals. That's an A statement. We know it's positive, right? It's an all S is P kind of statement. Okay, so the question is cats or is animals, are we talking about every single cat that there is and ever will be and ever was? Are we talking about every single animal that is or ever will be or ever was? Well, let me draw you a picture of what this means. So we have cats here, all right? All cats are animals, okay? And then we have animals, all right? So the question is, are we talking about every single cat? Yes, we are. And this happens to be a true statement, okay? It is true that all cats are animals. But I could say all aliens are animals. And even though that's not true, it still is, it's still distributed because we're talking about every single alien. So be careful with the truth issue because in this case, it's true. I used a true statement so that you can understand, but it doesn't have to be true for it to be distributed, okay? So, but it's easier to understand with true ones. Okay, so cats, all cats are animals. Now let's look at animals. Are all animals, are we talking about every animal? Are all animals cats? Well, no, here we have cats, but we could also have goats or elephants or giraffes or something. So we are not distributing animals, but we are distributing cats because we're talking about every single one. Okay, so cats is in the subject, right? All cats are animals. That's in the subject. So in an A statement, that cats, sorry about that. I don't know why it's doing that. The cats is circled. Got that? So the S, the subject in an A statement, is distributed. Now, you don't have to understand this. That's the great thing about this. You can just memorize it. Or you can make a chart and refer to the chart. Okay? I think eventually it'll be easy and natural and you'll understand it. But for now, if you don't understand, just know that in the A statements, the S is distributed, okay? So circle that S in the A statement, all right? And I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, let's go to the next one. No cats are animals. No S is P. Okay, actually, our sentence is going to be no cats are dogs because cats are animals, right? No cats are dogs. Well, this is what the picture looks like. We have cats and dogs. Are we talking about every single cat? Is every single cat not a dog? Yes. Are we talking about every single dog? Yes. Is every single dog not a cat? Yes. Okay, so this is the picture for that. We have cats over here and dogs over here, and we're talking about all cats and all dogs. Okay, so we are going to distribute this both. We're distributing the subject and the predicate. So we are going to circle the S and the P, okay, for the E statement. So again, the A statement, the S is circled because it's distributed. In the E statement, the S and the P are circled because they're distributed, okay? All right. Now let's talk about the I statements. Some S is P. Some cats are striped animals. Okay, so we have cats over here, all right, and then we have striped animals. Okay, are we talking about all cats? No. Are we talking about all striped animals? No. We're talking about some cats are striped. So if you see this, it's a Venn diagram. There's a little bit in the middle where the two circles, well, the circle and the oval overlap, and those are the cats that are striped, right? So we're not talking about all the cats, and we're not talking about all the striped animals. So they're not distributed because we only distribute things that we are talking about all of them, okay? All right, now look at this one. Some cats are not animals. Whew, okay. How about some cats are not striped animals? This one is the hardest for me to explain and kind of the hardest for me to understand, but what this is inferring, and I can't really draw a picture either. What this is inferring is we're not talking about all the cats, obviously, because we just said some cats, but we are talking about all the striped animals that are not cats, okay? This claims that all striped animals are not the cats that we refer to. So this one you just kind of have to remember. The O statement is the P is circled, the P is distributed, okay? P again means the predicate, okay? So the last term in the sentence is distributed, so circle that one. Okay, now I have this, so I want to practice the square of opposition again. All S is P, and then go over to the right. No S is P, some S is P, and some S is not P. So this you should memorize, okay? Then we're going to circle the S in the A statement, okay? We're going to circle both the S and the P in the E statement, and we're going to circle the P in the O statement. We don't circle anything in the I statement. Okay, now I want you to notice this. In the top, all and no, both of those subjects are distributed. So the subjects are both distributed at the top. And on the right, both of the predicates are distributed. Okay, so that's how I remember how to do it. I just remember this little pattern. All the two S's at the top and the two P's on the right are distributed. Okay, and then I want you to notice this too. If you go catacornered, all S is P, and then go down to the O statement, some S is not P. Look at this. We have the subject circled. Okay, and then in the opposite statement, we've got the predicate circled. You see how that is? Or how they're catacorner from each other? Okay, they're kind of opposites. And then over here, we also have opposites because we have two things that are circled in the no statement, which is the E statement. And if you look at the I statement, there's nothing circled. So two over here, nothing over in the I statement. So hopefully that will help you. Let's do this one more time. All S is P, no S is P, some S is P, some S is not P. And then what do we circle? I like to circle the S's in the top, S, S, and the P's on the right, P, P. Okay, hopefully that helps you. All right, so that's all I'm going to do today. I will pick this up back tomorrow, and we will use all this information to determine whether a syllogism is valid. I hope this helps. I will talk to you next time.